The moment I saw the steam curl green instead of gold above the ceremonial plate, I knew someone was about to die, and that it might be me if I spoke. The Hall of Petition was silent in the way only alien architecture could enforce. No echoes. No whispers. Sound was swallowed by the living walls, layered with translucent membranes that pulsed gently like a breathing organism. Above us, the vaulted ceiling opened to the stars themselves, a controlled rift revealing the violet spiral of the Kethrix Nebula. It was beautiful. Sacred. And it was about to become a murder scene. I stood among diplomats, generals, and envoys from 12 species, each of us frozen as the offering procession approached the dais. At its center sat Queen Valeth of the Thren Dominion. 6 meters tall, radiant and terrible, her crown of bio-crystal tendrils shimmering with soft blue light. Her many eyes were half-lidded in ritual calm. The plate in my hands was not meant for me to see. But I had seen it anyway. And what I saw next changed everything. I am human. My name is Elias Cade. And I was never supposed to be here. Humans were not invited to the Feast of Unification. We were tolerated observers at best, newcomers from a recently uplifted death world, emotionally volatile, biologically inefficient. But the Thren valued unpredictability in advisors, and somehow, through a chain of favors and disasters, I had become a cultural attaché. A seat near the back. Close enough to witness history. Far enough to be expendable. The feast was not a celebration. It was a test. Every century, the queen accepted offerings from her vassal species. Food synthesized from their world's rarest elements. Nutrients calibrated to her unique physiology. To poison the plate was to declare rebellion. To fail to notice was to doom the galaxy to war. And the poison was real. My hands tightened around the edge of the table as the procession moved. The plate floated forward on a gravity disk, carried by 4 Keth attendants whose chitinous faces betrayed nothing. The vapor rising from the dish shimmered faintly green, a color no Thren nutrient compound should ever produce. I had learned that during a sleepless night, buried in forbidden xenobiology texts. I swallowed. If I spoke, I would accuse someone powerful. If I stayed silent, I would watch an empire collapse. But that was only the beginning. The queen extended one delicate, clawed limb. The hall seemed to lean forward with her. My heart hammered so loudly I was certain the walls could hear it. I stepped forward. The sound of my boots against the living floor was deafening. Gasps rippled through the assembly. Clicks, hisses, harmonic pulses of shock. A human breaking protocol. A human approaching the queen. Guards shifted. Weapons hummed. "Stop," I said. My voice cracked, thin and small in the vast hall. "The plate is poisoned." Silence fell like a blade. Queen Valeth's eyes snapped open, all of them, focusing on me at once. The pressure of her attention was physical, crushing, like gravity increasing around my skull. "Explain," she commanded, her voice resonating directly inside my mind. I could have lied. I could have blamed faulty synthesis. I could have named a random species and prayed. Instead, I told the truth. "It's a slow-bond neurotoxin," I said. "Engineered to mimic ceremonial nutrients. It wouldn't kill you immediately. It would impair your synaptic lattice over weeks. You'd become suggestible." A murmur surged through the hall. What I saw next changed everything. The queen withdrew her limb. The plate froze mid-air. Her gaze shifted, not to me, but to her own advisors. "Who benefits?" she asked softly. No one answered. Because everyone knew. The Thren Dominion had ruled for 10,000 years through logic, stability, and ritual. But recently, Queen Valeth had begun questioning old laws. Ending resource purges. Granting autonomy. Weakness, some called it. Change, others feared. And fear makes poison. Guards seized 3 delegates that day. 2 confessed. 1 dissolved into acid rather than speak. War was averted. Temporarily. I should have been executed for disrupting the feast. Instead, I was summoned to the Queen's private chamber. That should have terrified me. It didn't. Because something in her eyes, when she looked at me, wasn't anger. It was curiosity. Her chamber was nothing like the hall. Smaller. Darker. The walls glowed faintly with bioluminescent patterns that shifted with her mood. She dismissed the guards with a gesture. "You risked everything," she said. "Why?" I hesitated. No human had ever been alone with a Thren queen before. History pressed down on my chest. "Because humans know poison," I said quietly. "We've used it on each other for centuries." And because I couldn't watch another empire fall to silence. Her tendrils rippled. Amusement? Sadness? "You are afraid," she observed. "Yes," I admitted. "But I'm more afraid of what happens if no one speaks." She studied me for a long moment. "Stay," she said. "Advise me." That was the moment the galaxy truly shifted. But none of us were prepared for the truth that followed. Over the next cycles, I learned what the Thren hid beneath their perfect logic. The Queen was dying, not from poison, but from an ancient genetic flaw in her species' ruling line. A flaw concealed through centuries of ritual and selective breeding. The feast had never been about unity. It had been about survival. Each offering contained compounds to stabilize the Queen's failing biology. Without them, the Thren would lose their monarch, and their empire would fracture. The poison wasn't just an assassination attempt. It was a test run. And the conspirators weren't just rebels. They were patriots, terrified of extinction. At the midpoint of it all, the Queen revealed her greatest secret. She didn't want to live forever. She wanted an end. "Logic demands continuity," she told me, her voice weary. "But emotion wonders if the cost is too high." I saw then what no one else had. Queen Valith wasn't weak. She was tired. The turning point came when the conspirators struck again. Not with poison, but with truth. They leaked the Queen's condition to the Dominion. Panic spread faster than any toxin. Systems threatened secession. Fleets mobilized. War loomed. And this time, there would be no plate to intercept. I stood beside the Queen as emergency transmissions flooded the chamber. "You can still order them silenced," I said. "Rule through fear." She looked at me. Truly looked. "That is not the future I want," she said. What I saw next changed everything. She chose to step down. In a civilization that worshipped permanence, abdication was heresy. She named no successor. Instead, she dissolved the throne. The Dominion screamed. Fleets halted, confused. Generals argued. Species that had lived under Thren order for millennia suddenly faced freedom. Chaos bloomed. And I was blamed. An assassin. A manipulator. The human who whispered treason into the Queen's ear. I was imprisoned. Awaiting execution. On the final day, Queen Valith visited my cell. "I will not survive the transition," she said calmly. "But you will." "I never wanted this," I said. "I know," she replied. "That is why it had to be you." She touched my forehead with one cool claw. When I awoke, I was no longer just human. She had transferred fragments of her neural lattice into me. Memories, empathy, understanding. Not rule. Not power. Perspective. They released me. Years have passed since the Dominion fell and reformed into something fragile and new. A council. A conversation. A mess. Humans are no longer overlooked. Neither are emotions. Sometimes, I still dream of the feast. Of green steam curling where it shouldn't. Of a moment when one voice mattered. The plate never reached the Queen. But the poison reached the truth. And the galaxy has never been the same since.